Okay, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. I am cheating here. I actually recorded this before, obviously, what I'm recording now, because as you can see, there are freaking holes already on the top. So just imagine that there are no holes in here and that we're doing this in order. Anyway, what I'm gonna do now, I already had to do for this. And boy, I don't even remember what I already said on the other part that I already recorded. But let me start by saying that fixing this humongous box to the table is a challenge in itself. Now, these features that you see here, which I already made, were made when the box was like this, because I have a lot of trouble in X. In Y, however, I do not have a lot of trouble like this, and I have already measured, and in fact, I cannot make this feature without tripping my switches, which means that it's just not possible to cut as it is, okay? Believe me, there is no way I can position this part so that I can manufacture this feature as it is, because when I reach this point or this point, I will have already engaged the switches and Mach 3 is going to stop and everything is going to go into hell. So it is just not possible to do it with this machine as it is and with these features as it is. What could you do if you wanted to do these features on this machine? You would need to move these features into the center, make them smaller so that the coordinates where this path is falls within the path, the allowable motion of your machine. Or you could get a bigger machine. But remember, it doesn't matter how big a machine you have, at some point in time you will get a part that doesn't fit. It's just how it is. Okay, so let's not worry about that. Basically the solution here is just flip the part 90 degrees and you're done. Which is one of the beauties why I want those stoppers here, because now I know that this part is already 90 degrees. I mean, I can flip this a trillion times and it will always be where it needs to be. Now, I also know that my X0 is here because I already found it before, so my X0 has been preserved. What I don't know is where is my Y0. I have to find that. Unfortunately, I cannot measure my Y0 because, like I said, this part is too big and I cannot travel. So if I cannot go here, much less can I go here. I mean, my edge finder, I cannot go here with my edge finder. It's not possible. There might be some other contraptions out there, maybe some kind of a swinger or something. I don't have any of that, and I'm not gonna worry about it. You know, that's one of those things. If it was available and I had it, I could be using it. But I have to deliver this tomorrow. It's not like I can say, hey, I gotta wait 3 months to get my friggin' swingy thing, if there is such a thing. Or I should say 3 days, not 3 months, but 3 days. Okay, so I'm gonna flip like this. Let me give you a little trick here. This is not alien technology by any means. It's actually super crude and it's not the ultimate. But again, this is not going into a vessel heading into space, so if I'm a little bit off, it's not the end of the world. Basically, what I want with these features here is for air to go in and out. That's it. So what I did is that I draw lines from this corner to this corner, and from this corner to this corner, and where those lines intersect, that's supposed to be my center. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the machine in 0, in what it believes is 0, 0, and I'm going to align my box with what that 0 should be. And that's the way in which I'm gonna align it. Is it super duper awesomely perfect? Most likely not, but it's good enough. I'm using a center drill because it has a pointy point. That's gonna be my indicator of my 0, 0. Now the machine is already on what I believe is 0, 0, and I'm not gonna change that, okay? I already found the 0 on X, and that is something that I recorded earlier for the featuring here, so it's gonna look weird. It's gonna be on the future how I do that. Anyway, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move this in Y until I find that this point is touching my two lines crossing, and that's what I'm gonna say is my 0, 0. Again, it's not perfect, but it's just good enough. My part is centered at 0, 0. So we're ready to go, but remember, I mean, this is floating now, so I have to fixate it to the table. For that, I'm gonna use clamps. Now, there is a whole bunch of clamps. Now I'm gonna go into the video that I shot earlier, and let me give you a little bit of a background here. I have one set of clamps, which means 2 would have been better. So now I know, maybe one of these days I'll just give me a second set of clamps. They are not that expensive, so if you can get 2 set of clamps, it's handy. You're not gonna use them a lot, okay? It's one of those things that you don't use every single time, but that time when you need it, it's so awesome to have it. So unfortunately, to fix this into the table, I'm gonna need way much more of the stuff that I have, and actually you'll see what I had to implement to get this done. It's pretty nasty, but hey, it works. Well, I cannot believe it, but this is the first time I actually have run out of clamps. This was a tricky beast. You know, my clamping kit is pretty much exhausted, and you know, basically what I'm saying is I could have used 2 clamping kits. I actually had to attach 2 screws and use one of these coupling nuts, hex nuts, and I mean, it was just, I didn't have a screw that was long enough so that I can put the nut in here. By the way, it took a while to get the actual combination of the screw here and the coupling nut, because some combinations were too high, some combinations were too small, and the thing is that you want enough screw protruding here so that you can grab it with the nut, but also you don't want too much screw, because remember, these screws are not all the way, which means at some point in time you basically run out of thread, and then you cannot apply force on the downward direction. But basically I had to use both of my 4 step blocks, which is basically a 2-pair kind of deal. I had to use the 4 of them. I had to use 3 of the step clamps, and I actually had to, let me show you here, I guess you cannot see that. I actually had to use some 1, 2, 3. I don't think these are 1, 2, 3, these big ones here, but some blocks just to reach this guy on top. Now these 2 blocks are the perfect example of what you just try to get as much tooling as you possibly can, whether you need it or not, because one of those days when you're gonna need it, you'll have it and you won't have to go out and buy it. I actually acquired this pair on a big lot of tooling that I acquired last year. You know, I went to a garage sale. They were basically selling off somebody's tools, and this is a guy that had unfortunately passed. You know, which is it's gonna happen sometime for me. I mean, sometime all of these tools will be there, and if my kids doesn't want them, they'll have to get rid of it. So somebody will enjoy them on. But basically, I just acquired a bunch of tooling, and this is the first time I'm using these puppies here. A perfect example of why you need to acquire as much tooling as you can, whether you need it or not, because the truth is, at some point in time, you're gonna need it. Okay, so I think this box going nowhere, which means we can work it. Okay, so what we do is that we're gonna use the edge finder, and remember, your edge finder is rated at certain RPM, so you just don't start it at any speed. For this particular one, 1200 is what I always do, and I think that's basically the parameter. And we're gonna take it to one edge, okay? We're gonna find this edge. certain if. We're gonna find this edge, and that's the moment in which we found the edge. So we're gonna call that X0. Okay? We're gonna call that X0. X0. Okay, so now my arrow has a 0 here. Do note, however, that that's really not my 0. And you know, on some other videos I have specified that I should write as minus 0.1, but in this case it's different, because in this case I am gonna use the center as my 0, okay? So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go to the other side, and I'm gonna find the edge on the other side. I'm almost running out of table, but luckily the X is bigger. Okay, so now I'm gonna find my 0 here. Let me zoom in. Sorry for the jumpiness. Okay, and that is the point in which I find 0. Or I should say, where I find the edge. Now, according to Mach 3, we are in the position 12.4372. That is, in essence, that is telling me how much this thing measures. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say divide by 2, which tells me that I am 6.2186 from my center. So if I go up and see, remember to, you don't want to jam your probe. And now you say G0, X0, and bam, it's gonna go to what should be the center. I'm gonna show you. That is pretty much the center, okay? Look at how close it is to what I found with the lines. That's super duper good. I really don't need anything more than that. So we're ready to do this job. Well, I gotta say it looks pretty good. Finishing is kind of, you know, it's not bad. It's not bad. It's plastic, it's cheap. I mean, the whole thing was 33 bucks. I don't think it was meant to be machined like this. But well, as you can imagine, I'm gonna do 2 cavities like this, but in here and in here. And the problem is that because of where this guy, I mean, basically because of this dimension, it is not possible to do it with the travel on Y. Basically, I would be hitting the stops. And believe me, I already checked, I already positioned the blade where it is supposed to be according to the G code. And it, I mean, as soon as I reach on the corner, which will be somewhere in here, bam, right there, I trip the switch. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flip this 90 degrees, and we're gonna just do this, and we're done with this part. Then I have to delete, which is pretty much just gonna have the same issue.